Hey everybody, how you doing out there? Hope you're doing well. Congress doing their best to shut down the revelations that have come out via the Twitter files, the obvious corruption that has gone on, the obvious censorship. Congress doing their best to make sure that we don't learn about that. And that has just happened. I have some great video of that, and I guess it's mainly Democrats in Congress that are focused on trying to crush the revelations coming out from the Twitter files. Our lovely Congress people that represent fucking nothing but corporate America. These expert parasites, these titans of suck, have come together to try and make sure you don't learn what's coming out in the Twitter files. And by the way, please, I hope you're enjoying my temporary background as I go through a move. But yeah, thanks for being here. I'm going to play some videos from that, some of the most ridiculous moments. But I also have new information coming from Matt Taibbi and the Twitter files, which again has revealed so much of the ongoing censorship by our government, by various intelligence agencies against. And, you know, people have said, oh, it's against the right wing. It's against Trump supporters. Well, it's partially against Trump supporters, but it's also heavily against the likes of me, the likes of anyone who is left of the Overton window, who's left of what's allowable on CNN and MSNBC. So it's against the left as well. It's just that's not talked about as much. All right. So let's get into it. And please take a second to hit thumbs up, subscribe, follow. If you're watching at Rumble, click follow. I'm close to 40,000. I'd love to crack that 40,000 mark soon. And I'm also going to be getting into how there are literally gangs running the LAPD. I know we're not in the dialogue, the national dialogue in America of our mainstream media. You're only allowed to use the term gang to refer to non-whites, right? But no, these are white gangs that are running the LAPD. There's a new report out that's pretty disastrous for these goons at the LAPD. Yeah, I'm going to get into that. I'm also going to get into how how Israeli troops, IDF, shot straight into innocent civilians, clearly intentionally killing multiple. And I know that you may hear that and go, what else is new? Israeli troops killing innocent civilians. Who cares? Boring. Here's why it's a little different than normal. The Washington Post covered it. Yeah. This shit is cracking through the long-standing wall between Israel's crimes and mainstream media. That's how and honestly, that's thanks to activists, but I'll get into that more in a moment. And thank you for the donation, Mahmoud. All right, let's get into it. Here is. So Matt Taibbi, I've covered the Twitter files in multiple episodes, I believe. I mean, it's revealed a lot of it's revealed a lot of things that I and many others on the independent media side have been saying for years, but we didn't have the proof, right? We didn't have the text, we didn't have the emails internal at Twitter, which you almost never get, right? Like we'll never see internally, or not anytime soon, internally at Facebook. What are the decisions, how the decisions get made for what to suppress, how I got shadow banned and have been shadow banned since 2016. How did that happen? Yes, some of it is AI, some of it is algorithm, but a lot of it is actual human beings. And this rare thing happened where Elon Musk bought Twitter, a very dumb investment, I think. I think even he would admit that. Well, no, he wouldn't admit it, but he knows it. And he's now revealed to us the internal workings of Twitter before he bought it. By the way, Elon Musk, don't make him your hero. He's a billionaire goon, just like the rest of them. But he happened to, in this case, benefit us all by showing us the internal workings of Twitter. And I'm not going to do the play-by-play because I've already done that. But it revealed that that the whole Russian bots are rigging our elections thing was utter horseshit. And not only was it horseshit, but that internally at Twitter, they knew it was horseshit. There were emails between their top heads of security and what's allowable on the site, saying, should we call this out for the bullshit it is? They knew. They fucking knew. And many of us were going, hey, this Russian bot thing is bullshit. And yeah, we were called liars. We were called misinformation. Anyway, that continues to go on, as we're about to see in these clips. So Matt Taibbi goes in front of Congress. He's brought I bet you're wondering, I mean, if you haven't already read about it, which most of you may have, why would Congress even bother to bring journalists that are revealing that our U.S. government worked in cahoots with Twitter to censor so much stuff that was legitimate conversation, legitimate information? Why would they even bring them? Well, it's Republicans that brought Taibbi and others in front of Congress, because this is one of those things where the Republicans are doing what I would like to do. Now, that doesn't make them any less of a shit show and owned by corporate America than the Democrats. It's just that much of the censorship that went on at Twitter was against Trump, Trump supporters, Trump himself. And so the Republicans like this storyline. This is good for them, right? But what gets a lot less coverage, although Taibbi did mention it at the hearing, is that they also censored a shit ton of left-leaning outlets and people, such as myself, but far larger outlets than myself, such as Truth Out. And I will talk more about that in a moment. Thank you, Tony. So here is Representative Sylvia Garcia. And in another clip I'm not going to play, she pretends to not know what Substack is. She goes, you printed, because they wanted to pretend these weren't journalists, right? So they go, you printed something on you printed something on a thing called Substack. I think it's your website. I don't really understand. And she was saying that, or the reason she was saying that is because she wants to delegitimize Matt Taibbi, who is a best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author, also written for many outlets, including probably one of the biggest writers for Rolling Stone, no longer, but was, and The Nation, written for many outlets. He is a journalist. He is a journalist who has done many of some of my favorite books, such as Griftopia and The Great Divide, or is it just, I think it's just called The Divide. Anyway, fucking excellent books. Read them if you haven't. And he is a far better journalist than anyone you will ever see at CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or any of these ridiculous outlets. And so she wants to delegitimize him. I don't remember if it was her or one of the others said, you're a so-called journalist. And he responded, I'm not a so-called journalist. I'm a journalist. And she then pretended not to know what Substack was. Obviously, the reason Taibbi's on Substack is because if you actually do legitimate journalism, then you aren't allowed on at the mainstream outlets. I mean, even, I don't know that this has ever been said officially, but it seems quite obvious. So Taibbi and Katie Halper, a friend of mine, started Useful Idiots, a podcast. And Useful Idiots became more and more edgy, questioning the Syrian chemical attack narrative, etc. And ultimately, they were kind of pushed out, or I guess Rolling Stone was promoting it, Useful Idiots, and it was on their umbrella organization. And they slowly got pushed out, because when you do that type of stuff, when you do what Matt Taibbi used to do, which was kind of just talk about, and I love this work, I just mentioned it, but talk about the banking collapse, talk about what police do in New York City, such as arrest Black people for nothing crimes. When you do that kind of coverage, you can still be allowed at Rolling Stone. When you start questioning the U.S. government bullshit narrative on Syria, you're no longer allowed at places like Rolling Stone, or maybe even The Nation. And so they were cast aside by Rolling Stone. They're no longer with Rolling Stone. So that's why he's publishing on Substack, because you can't do that stuff and be at mainstream media. Anyway, so I want to play this clip of Sylvia Garcia. By the way, she is, sorry to keep interrupting before I play it, but she is bragging about this clip. So to her, this is something she's proud of. She said, I will continue to stop these far right-wing MAGA support, MAGA people. And you're like, Tayyip is not MAGA. He's not far right-wing, and you're full of shit. So she's proud of the clip I'm about to show you.
When was the first time that Mr. Musk approached you about writing the Twitter files?
Again, Congresswoman, that would.
I just need a date, sir.
But I can't give it to you, unfortunately, because this is a question of sourcing, and I don't give up. I'm a journalist. I don't reveal my source.
It's a question of chronology.
No, that's a question
because
of sourcing.
Because you earlier said that someone had sent you through the internet some message about whether or not you would be interested in some information.
Yes, and I refer to that person as a source.
So you're not going to tell us when Musk first approached you?
Again, Congressman, you're asking me to, you're asking a journalist to reveal a source.
So then you consider Mr. Musk to be the direct source of all this?
No, now you're trying to get me to say that he is the source. I just can't answer your question.
Well, it either is or he isn't. If you're telling me you can't answer because it's your source, well, then that the only logical conclusion is that he is in fact your source.
Well, you're free to conclude that.
Well, sir, I just don't understand. You can't have it both.
So this was one of the ongoing narratives from the Democrats, was to try and get Taibbi to reveal his source of the Twitter files. I mean, it was Elon Musk, but that's not really the point. The point is, it doesn't matter who it is. He doesn't reveal sources. Taibbi didn't reveal that it was Musk. And I think that this served two purposes. One was they want to know who the source was because they want to go after that person, see if they can use government power, taxpayer dollars to somehow go after whoever revealed that. You literally have CIA and FBI sitting down with Twitter and telling them which accounts to ban, is some of the stuff that was revealed. I'm actually going to get into more of that stuff in a few minutes. But so that was part of it. But it was also, let's distract from the actual content of the Twitter files. We don't want people talking about the fact that the whole Russiagate narrative, at least in this context as it related to Twitter, was bullshit, and we've been pushing that for years. We don't want people discussing that. We don't want people discussing that we have sidelined and censored and suppressed, we being the U.S. government, intelligence agencies, etc., and NGOs that are connected or funded by the U.S. government, going to Twitter and literally having things banned. Literally, the Biden White House, before Musk took over, would have things suppressed and banned on a daily basis at Twitter. And we don't want people talking about all these revelations. So let's try and sideline the conversation into who is the source. And another reason this is important is, of course, this is what you're not supposed to do with whistleblowers. You're not supposed to, and any source that is a secret source of a story for a good reason. Now, when it's an anonymous source from the U.S. government saying that, Syrian weapons, but Cuba's firing acoustic cricket cannons at diplomats. When it's that kind of anonymous source, then that's bullshit. They're just repeating CIA talking points without saying who it was. But outside of that, when it's an anonymous source for a solid reason, then the government should not go after who that source is. But of course they do, right? They imprison people like John Kiriakou, who revealed the U.S. torture program, the CIA torture program. They imprison Chelsea Manning. They imprison Julian Assange. They imprison Edward Snowden. Anybody who reveals the truth, they haven't caught Snowden yet, but they would like to imprison him. Anybody who reveals the truth, they want to lock them up, which of course is a fascist way to behave. And everyone should know that. So this Democratic rep, Sylvia Garcia, is proud of this moment. She posted it on her Twitter feed, whereas she should be ashamed of her fascist leanings and what she's trying to do. But no, that can't be done. And keep in mind, she has a couple of minutes. Like each person gets a few minutes to question Taibbi or others, and they are using it for this type of garbage. But all right, I want to show another clip from the hearing. This one was posted by Matt Taibbi. Sorry, not by Matt Taibbi, by Aaron Mate, another great journalist. Aaron Mate says, at the Twitter Files hearing, Representative Colin Allred implored the two journalists present to take off their tinfoil hats and consider that our noble national security agencies are in fact trying their best to prevent hurt and protect democracy. Okay, I'll play the. I'm chomping at the bit to tear this shit apart, but I'll play the clip first.
And I hope that you can actually take this with you, because I honestly hope that you will grapple with this. That it may be possible that if we can take off the tinfoil hat, that there's not a vast conspiracy, but that ordinary folks and national security agencies responsible for our security are trying their best to find a way to make sure that our online discourse doesn't get people hurt or see our democracy undermined. And that the very rights that you think they're trying to undermine, they may be trying to protect.
Oh, that's a good one. That's an excellent one. I love that he says, take off your tinfoil hats, stop being so conspiracy minded. And it's like, no, dude, literally, these are emails showing conspiracy. It's not conspiracy minded. It's not a theory. These are emails internally at Twitter showing that people conspired, the root word of conspiracy, conspired to suppress and cover up various topics, including some things that were actually misinformation, such as Trump saying that whatever 8 billion votes were stolen from him or whatever. Some things that were actually fake. Another example of things that were actually fake is there was an effort to tweet out that people should vote on the date following the election. The goal was to get people to try to go vote on the wrong day so that their votes wouldn't count. So that did happen. So it's a combination of suppressing real misinformation with a lot of suppressing real correct information. And you can have your own argument as to whether it's okay to post misinformation on Twitter. I would argue that a lot of the time, unless it's actively causing violence or something, it should be, because probably 70% of what everyone says is bullshit. So a lot of shit is misinformation. And fucking the entirety coming out of CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, it's all bullshit. So if you were actually censoring, suppressing, or deleting misinformation, all the mainstream media would be wiped out immediately, right? You would not have a mainstream media channel on Twitter at all right now, or any of the other social media outlets. But then there's a lot of information that's absolutely true that they work to suppress. Now, there was an actual conspiracy. We have the documents showing that Twitter was on a daily basis taking commands from the FBI, from the CIA, which in the documents is not called the CIA. In the documents, it's called OGA, Other Government Agency, which is a long-standing term for when internally, when you refer to the CIA, because it's not okay to say the CIA, you say the Other Government Agency, OGA. And so FBI, OGA, NSA, Biden administration, all these groups, even at times the Trump administration did get some things censored or banned at times, but far less than I think the Biden administration. And these were all standard operating procedure. The Twitter was operating as an arm of the U.S. government. And, maybe that explains why my tweets get fucking, relatively speaking, zero pull, zero growth, zero organic sharing. Anyway, so he's castigating, these journalists for how dare you reveal the truth. Maybe for a second think of the fact that these people are protecting our security. It's like, no, they're fucking not. No, they're protecting the oligarchs. They're protecting this system. They're protecting the oligarchy. That's what they're protecting. They're protecting the ruling class. That's what they're fucking protecting. Not us and our democracy, which our democracy was destroyed years ago. So the idea that we have a democracy is pretty laughable. And these goons, like this piece of shit, are bought out by corporate America. So they're not our representatives. They represent corporate America. They are puppets on the end of corporate America's fist, which is straight up their backside. So, and that's what this guy's doing. And that's what and hilariously, again, I'll mention, this is mainly Democrats, or maybe exclusively Democrats, that were trying to tear apart these journalists. And it was, I believe, exclusively Republicans who were propping up what was revealed from the Twitter files. Now, does that, I want to make clear here, because I imagine there's a lot of other independent media saying that just criticizing the Democrats and not talking about the fact that Republicans, all these Republicans are pieces of shit. They're awful human beings, okay? They are absolutely also puppets for corporate America. They are doing corporate America's bidding. It just so happens that in this particular tiny realm of Twitter censorship, it's useful to them to prop up this story. It does not mean the Republicans are good people. It doesn't mean they stand for anything positive. Funny that I say steal. It does mean they steal, but thank you, Jessica, for the donation. She's asking whether the source is the actual files. Well, they mean the source who gave him the files. So, yes, if someone says, if you say to someone, the CIA and FBI were telling Twitter what to suppress, and they say, "What's your source?" you can say, "Oh, the Twitter files." So in that way, yes, it's the source. But they were asking who gave these files to Matt Taibbi. Anyway, okay, I want to get on to the same subject, but this is actually new revelations from Taibbi, from more files. So you got to remember that in the Twitter files, as with Snowden's revelations, which, by the way, Snowden's revelation, like 90% of Snowden's documents have never been revealed, and no one seems to have a good answer for where the fuck they are or what happened to them. So, I'll just throw that in there as an aside. Fun question to ponder. But you got to remember that the reason some of this stuff trickles out is because the Twitter files, as with often with leaks, is massive. It's tons of information. So, all right, I'll go through some of these and try not to make this take forever, but Matt Taibbi is now calling it the censorship industrial complex, meaning that it is basically an arm of the U.S. government. But here are some of the things that have been censored. True content which might promote vaccine hesitancy. Stories of true vaccine side effects. True posts which could fuel hesitancy. That is one of the things that Twitter actively censored. And here they are claiming they're censoring misinformation. But there is just one example of censoring real information that they just didn't want out there. Here is monitoring all tweets coming from Trump's and Biden's personal accounts. And so literally these are internal discussions of literally monitoring and erring on the side of labeling meaning labeling it as misinformation. So they were actively monitoring Biden's and Trump's accounts and often labeling things. This part gets into the U.S. Department of Justice seized 27 domains. So he's saying Twitter was more like a partner to the government with other tech firms. It held a regular industry meeting with FBI and DHS and developed a formal system for receiving thousands of content reports from every corner of government. HHS, Treasury, NSA, even local police could have you censored at Twitter. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. All of those could get you censored. Local police even could contact Twitter and say, we don't want this stuff out there. And, you know, I know that this is a lot of focus on Twitter, and some of you may be like, oh, I'm not into Twitter. What's it matter? But this is probably exactly the same with most of your mainstream social media platforms. They're all doing this. They're all connected to our government. It's the same reason I and many other independent outlets have been shadow banned at Facebook. I've been shadow banned at Facebook since 2016. Now, some of you may be watching me on Facebook right now going, I see your stuff. I'm seeing it right now. But the percentage of people that see my stuff on Facebook is a tiny, tiny, tiny percent of my actual followers. I have 330,000 followers on Facebook, and roughly like 0.01% are shown anything that I post. So that's what shadow banning is. You don't have to delete a page. I actually think deleting a page is less effective because then it causes it causes a big uproar. Whereas if you shadow ban people, then they can't talk about it. Now, I've been fully banned. My main YouTube page with 250,000 subscribers, that's been fully banned. So if you go there right now, it'll say not available in your country, youtube.com/redacted tonight. But luckily, I'm trying to build things up. And actually, since I mentioned that, I'll go ahead and say this. The page I'm trying to build up as a replacement to that is rumble.com/Lee Camp. So if you're not there, I hope you will go there, click follow, help me build that up as a replacement to the large YouTube page that is banned globally, as well as over 2,000 videos banned globally. Help me do that by going to rumble.com/Lee Camp, clicking follow, and that will help me grow over there. But what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. And in roughly 10 minutes, the rest of this live stream will just be at that Rumble page, but we'll keep going for now. But Twitter was more like a partner of the government. Oh, yeah, I already said that, where OGA, and he highlights the fact that there was a regular OGA briefing. Remember, OGA is other government agency, meaning the CIA. So, all right. Emails from the FBI, DHS, and other agencies often came with spreadsheets of hundreds or thousands of accounts, names to review, meaning they would send hundreds of thousands for Twitter to shut down or suppress. Many were obvious misinformation, but other official disinfo were on shakier grounds. The highlighted Twitter analysis here disagrees with FBI about accounts deemed proxy Russian actors. So this is some more of the bullshit Russiagate stuff. It says, narrative tweets amplified by bots blame U.S. for Nazification of Ukraine. Biden is the architect of the 2014 ousting of a leader with 90% support using U.S.-backed neo-Nazis, and then put his son on the board of Burisma. This is stuff they want censored. A CIA coup in Ukraine happened, which led to a fascist neo-Nazi regime being installed. This led to NATO troops with the potential of nuclear weapons being at the doorstep of Russia. So those are examples of stuff that the U.S. government once deleted or suppressed from Facebook, including that Biden had his son put on the board of Burisma, which his son was on the board of Burisma, and making $50,000 a month for doing nothing. But yeah, so that's an example of some of the stuff they want censored to keep going. And this is what I said about outlets such as Truth Out, which Truth Out is, at times they're a little more mainstream than I would like, but they do a lot of great reporting, and I will often reference stuff from Truth Out. They may slightly side with the Democrats, whereas I will always say that the two parties are the same party. But Truth Out is apparently, even what Truth Out does, which is not radical leftist, is too much for our mainstream media, and it's too much for Twitter, apparently. Matt Taibbi says, then we saw disinfo lists where evidence was even less clear. This list of 378 Iranian state-linked accounts is what they called them. Includes an Iraq vet once arrested for blogging about the war, a former Chicago Sun-Times reporter, and Truth Out, a site that publishes Noam Chomsky, among others. Truth Out was banned or shadow banned because it was called Iranian state-linked accounts. That's Truth Out. That's a mainstream independent outlet being called Iranian linked. In some cases, state reports didn't even assert misinformation. Here, a list of YouTube videos is flagged for simply having anti-Ukraine narratives. So they could get YouTube accounts suppressed or censored from Twitter simply for saying anti-Ukraine narrative stuff. And now you see why someone like me is shadow banned or fully banned in the case of YouTube. Because we now have documents, we now have internal documents showing that they're going after anyone who dares say something that doesn't support the pro-Ukraine narrative. And the pro-Ukraine narrative is actually a pro-war narrative. I hope all of you understand that if you're running around with Ukrainian flag in America going, I love Ukraine, yay, Ukraine. Well, what is the reason for that? Well, that we're in the middle of a proxy where the U.S. wanted to keep it going for the first year. Now we're trying to wrap it up, right? We're giving Zelensky the signals like, come on, buddy, get off the stage. But in general, we wanted to keep it going for the first year. And so we wanted pro-war narrative. That's what it was. It was a pro-war narrative. In some ways it continues to be, but now the U.S. has shifted gears to try and wrap things up in Ukraine. Anyway, Matt Taibbi then goes on to say, but the bulk of censorship requests didn't come from the government directly. It came from NGOs, but many of those NGOs are funded by the U.S. government. So this is kind of how the U.S. government does a lot of it's also how we do a lot of our influencing of other countries. It's how we do a lot of our coups, is via NGO, is via USAID or NED, these U.S. government-backed or NATO-backed or EU-backed NGOs, non-governmental organizations that are actually kind of an arm of the U.S. government. USAID and NED are basically, NED especially is a CIA cutout. USAID is a U.S. government cutout, basically brand laundering to make it seem like it's not connected to the CIA. Taibbi says NGOs ideally serve as a check on corporations and the government. Not long ago, most of these institutions viewed themselves that way. Now, Intel officials, researchers, quote unquote, and executives at firms like Twitter are effectively one team or signal group, as it were. Oh, and this is really kind of hilarious. I'll wrap this up with this part. He goes, the Woodstock of the censorship industrial complex. So he's jokingly calling it the Woodstock, meaning the big concert, the big all-out balls out of your shorts rock concert of the censorship industrial complex came when the Aspen Institute, which receives millions a year from both the State Department and USAID, held a star-studded conference in Aspen in August 2021 to release its final report on information disorder. Information disorder, quote unquote. The report was, get this, co-authored by Katie Couric and Chris Krebs. Chris Krebs is the founder of Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. So he was part of Department of Homeland Security. Prince Harry also joined Couric as a commissioner. So you have literal monarchy, the literal ruling class monarchy of one country as part of this. But I find even funnier, and you have the Department of Homeland Security as part of this, writing the official report on our information paradox, information disorder. And the fucking leader of this report, it's co-authored by Katie Couric, who has been a face of U.S. propaganda for fucking years. Like how many decades? Now, I get that the Today Show, when she was the Today Show in general is a lot of bullshit, right? It's a lot of, here's how to cook mushrooms so they don't taste so mushroomy. Here's how to sprinkle lavender on your pillow at night so you have better dreams, or whatever the fuck. I get Today's Show is a lot of bullshit, but it also sprinkles in there the propaganda of the U.S. empire. And that's why it is so effective. That's why the Today Show is so effective as propaganda for your average American housewife, is to promote all the U.S. propaganda sprinkled in amongst the lavender. So she was the face of that. But then she also went and headed NBC News? Is that the one? Yeah, she was the face of, I think, or CBS. I don't know, one of them. She was the face of CBS or NBC not late night, but evening news, some of the biggest newscasts in the world. And she did that for a few years. So this is someone whose job has been U.S. government propaganda in a large way for decades, her entire career. And yet, here she is, writing this report, the face of it, on disinformation. She's going to tell us what disinformation is. And anyway, the report, as you might expect, says the government should pass laws or empower independent agencies to mandate disclosure of data. They also say that new posts from influencers with repeat bad behavior. Well, what's bad behavior? Oh, revealing anything about the U.S. empire? Yes, that would be bad behavior. Should be placed in a holding area that allows for manual moderation. Also, they should be demonetized. And here's the other thing, is this shit has already been done for years and years. It just hasn't been official. It hasn't been official policy. But putting those of us who reveal the truth in a holding area, I guess I've been in a Facebook holding area for the past, 7 years, 2016? How long ago was that? I've been in a Facebook holding area for 7 years. And so they already do that shit. But then on top of that, demonetization, that's already gone on, right? That's been going on for years. I lost my entire YouTube page. So many other YouTube creators have been demonetized. So the key is to take away our ability to earn a living. And this coming from one of the richest, propagandists of empire, along with Prince Harry. Don't worry, Prince Harry's thrown in there. All right, I'm going to move on from this topic because I could do this topic for fucking 3 days, I think. But let's get to the gangs. Oh, and if I have time, I'm also going to play a clip from the president of Mexico saying the U.S. is an oligarchy. Actually, I promise I will get to that. But the rest of this live stream is going to be at rumble.com/Lee Camp. Join me over there, completely free to watch over there. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's rumble.com/Lee Camp. And it's free to watch over there, free to comment, and you'll get the full rest of the live stream, another 20 minutes or more. And also become a member at leecamp.net. That's the only way that I support my stuff. This episode's been all about censorship. So, I've lost so many of my platforms, but I continue to try and wake people up to the reality of our world and what's going on here. And I do it with your help. You guys make it possible. If you become a member at leecamp.net, you also get exclusive access to Q&A every Friday with me. You get articles that I don't put out elsewhere. You get you get my new book when it comes out, hoping the next couple of months. That will only be at leecamp.net if you're a member there. So join up there if you get a chance. But all right, rest of this at rumble.com/leecamp. And if you're on Rumble right now, then everything will continue as is. Just give me